Tomahawk as a diagnosis, what Russian propaganda says about fear of the West. The Russian information universe is once again filled with alarm. The alarm isn't that the war is dragging on or that there's stagnation at the front, but that the West, especially the US and Europe, is increasingly discussing long-range weapons as the norm, not a taboo. This was the central theme of the talk show 60 Minutes, a program known in Russia as News with Nerves, but in reality a nightly political therapy session for a country living in fear. That evening, the word Tomahawk was mentioned dozens of times. The hosts and experts drew a map of the threat zone, from Murmansk to Orenburg, from St. Petersburg to the Urals, the entire European part of Russia, supposedly in the crosshairs of American missiles. But beneath this rhetoric about missiles, air defenses, and a qualitatively new stage of escalation lies a far more important meaning. Russia doesn't warn, it's afraid, and it's doing everything it can to infect Europe with this fear. 1. The Tomahawk as a symbol, not of weapons, but of dependence. The program begins with urgent and extremely alarming news. Donald Trump has almost made a decision to supply Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles. This is followed by a cascade of pseudo-analytical reports, specifications, range, warhead weight, a map of the impact zones. This listing works not as information, but as a psychological ploy, to give the viewer a visual image of total vulnerability. But something more important. The presenters, moving from figures to emotion, suddenly admit it is impossible to use the Tomahawk without the direct participation of American troops. In other words, the propaganda unwittingly voices what the Kremlin is trying to avoid: the recognition that Ukraine is not fighting alone, but in close technological and intelligence alliance with the West. Hello, dear friends and comrades. Your favorite program, 60 Minutes, is live, hot on the heels. We begin with breaking and extremely alarming news. So Trump, as he himself stated, has practically made a decision to transfer cruise missile support to Kyiv. The US president stated that he needs to find out exactly where Kyiv plans to launch these strikes. In other words, an unprecedented military escalation is at hand.